During World War II, the United States military explored some truly wild ideas to gain an edge over its enemies, but none were quite as bizarre, or as brilliant, as the bat bomb. Yes, you heard that right. Bats with bombs. It sounds like something ripped from the pages of a comic book, but this was a real, top-secret project that almost changed the course of history. Picture this. Tiny winged creatures, fluttering through the night sky, carrying fire in their claws to rain chaos on the enemy. How did this insane idea come to life? Let's dive into the unbelievable story of the bat bomb, World War II's weirdest weapon. It all began with a man named Wildest Adams, a dental surgeon from Pennsylvania. Now you might be thinking, what's a dentist got to do with war? Well, Adams wasn't your average tooth puller. He was a dreamer, a part-time inventor with a mind full of crazy ideas. One day in December 1941, while vacationing at Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, he stood in awe as millions of bats poured out of the caves at dusk. These weren't just any bats. They were Mexican free-tailed bats, tough little flyers known for carrying heavy loads over long distances. Adams couldn't stop watching them, their wings slicing through the air like a living cloud. Then, everything changed. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The news hit America like a thunderbolt, and Adams was no exception. He was angry, but his anger sparked something wild. As he thought about those bats, an idea clicked. He knew Japanese cities were built mostly of wood and paper, stuff that burns fast and fierce. What if, he wondered, we could strap tiny bombs to these bats and drop them over Japan? The bats would scatter, find spots to rest in roofs and walls, and then, bam, set everything ablaze. It was nuts, but Adams saw it clear as day. Bats could be the perfect secret weapon. He didn't waste time. In January 1942, just a month after Pearl Harbor, Adams wrote a letter to the White House. He laid out his plan, claiming bats were practically made for this job, maybe even by God himself, to help America win the war. Crazy, right? But here's the wild part. He had a way in. Adams knew First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, and that connection got his letter right to President Franklin D. Roosevelt's desk. Most people would have laughed it off, but not Roosevelt. He scribbled a note to his team. This man is not a nut. It sounds like a perfectly wild idea, but is worth looking into. And just like that, the bat bomb was off the ground. The military jumped on it, calling it ProjectXRay, a name that sounds straight out of a spy movie. It was all hush-hush, a secret mission to turn bats into living firebombs. Adams gathered a team of oddballs, scientists, bat experts, even a former gangster. They set up in places like Bandera, Texas, and Carlsbad, New Mexico, rounding up thousands of those Mexican free-tailed bats from nearby caves. The plan was simple but bonkers. Catch the bats, strap tiny bombs to them, drop them from planes, and watch Japan burn. But making it work? That was a whole different beast. First, they had to keep the bats calm for the journey. Bats are fidgety night creatures, so the team came up with a trick. They chilled the bats into a deep sleep using ice cube trays. Imagine that. Bats snoozing in little ice beds, waiting for their big moment. Next, they needed bombs small enough for these tiny flyers. Each bat weighed just 14 grams, about as much as a couple of coins, but could carry 15 to 18 grams of fire-starting power. At first, they tried white phosphorus, but then a famous chemist named Louis Fieser stepped in. He swapped it for napalm, that sticky, fiery stuff he'd invented, perfect for the job. Then came the drop system. They built a big, bomb-shaped case that could hold over 1,000 bats, each tucked into its own little slot. Picture it. A plane flies high at dawn, drops this weird canister, and a parachute pops open to slow it down. Then, the case splits apart, and out come the bats. Waking up from their icy nap, they'd flutter off, find places to hide in wooden buildings, and wait. Each bat carried a timed firebomb, set to spark after they settled in. The idea was pure chaos. Fires popping up everywhere, too many to stop. Early tests blew everyone away. In one run, They dropped bats over a fake Japanese village built in the desert. The bats did their thing, and soon, flames were everywhere. The village burned to the ground, and the military folks watching couldn't believe it. One report said the bat bomb worked better than regular firebombs. While those might start a few hundred fires, the bats could light up thousands. It was looking like a game changer. But not everything went smooth. One day, during a test in Carlsbad, something went horribly wrong. A few bats got loose too early, still armed with live firebombs. Before anyone could blink, they flew straight into the test base's buildings. A hangar caught fire, then some offices, and even a general's car went up in flames. The whole place nearly burned down, all because of a handful of runaway bats. It was a mess, but it showed just how wild this weapon could be. The team didn't give up. They tweaked the bombs, perfected the drop, and kept testing. Even a cowboy movie star named Tim Holt got roped in, adding a dash of Hollywood to this crazy scheme. By 1943, the U.S. Navy took over, and the bat bomb was starting to feel real. But then, in 1944, it all stopped dead. Why? Another secret project, the atomic bomb, was moving faster. The Manhattan Project promised a quick end to the war, and it didn't rely on unpredictable bats. Plus, some worried about what millions of dead bats would do to nature. And with the war tipping America's way, the bat bomb lost its shine. After spending $2 million, about $35 million in today's money, the project was canned. Adams was crushed. He swore it could have worked, maybe even saved lives compared to the atomic bomb's destruction. But it wasn't meant to be. The bat bomb faded into history. A weird little story of a war that pushed every limit. So, there you have it. The tale of how bats almost became America's secret weapon. Next time you see one darting through the night, think about its ancestors, nearly drafted into World War II with tiny bombs on their backs. Work. It's wild, doesn't it?